Welcome to the deep dive. Today, it's a really interesting one. We're looking at the relationship between, knowing something in theory
Mhm.
and actually being able to do it, the practical side.
Right.
Where do we start?
Well, the plan is to first look at the general idea theory and practice interacting.
Okay.
And then we'll dive into the concept of divine administration it talks about.
Got it. It's a classic question, really. Head knowledge versus hands-on skill.
Yeah, it argues they're fundamentally combined. You can't really get the full picture with just one.
And it uses that carpentry example, which I thought was quite effective.
Oh, yeah, the chair builder.
Right. So you can learn all the theory wood types, joinery principles, physics.
Know it all inside out from books.
But then you actually try to build the chair, and suddenly practical problems pop up.
Like, is this wood actually dry enough? Or which joint works best here? Things the purely theoretical person might completely miss.
Exactly. Things someone learns just by doing, almost intuitively sometimes.
But then you flip that coin, right? The person who only learns by doing.
Through trial and error.
Yeah, they might get really good at making one specific thing, a certain chair, say. But ask them to adapt, try a new design, use a different wood. They might struggle.
Because they lack the foundational understanding, the why behind what works.
Precisely. That theory gives you adaptability.
Yeah.
Helps you troubleshoot when things go wrong because you get the principles.
So theory first versus practice first. But then it argues there's a better way, a superior kind of knowledge.
Exactly. It's about integrating them. That synergy, it's more than just adding them together.
How so?
Well, the theory helps you learn from your practical mistakes more effectively.
Okay.
And the practice shows you where the theory has limits or nuances you just wouldn't see otherwise.
Like learning to drive. You read the manual.
You know the rules, the mechanics, theoretically.
But you don't really learn until you're behind the wheel feeling the car.
Right. And in a lot of situations, that practical skill is what people value most if your car breaks down.
You want the mechanic who can fix it, not just the one who scored high on the theory test.
Makes sense.
So that's a great analogy.
Yeah, the same principles apply. Theory and practice are both crucial for spiritual understanding, too.
And it outlines two main ways to get that spiritual knowledge.
That's right. Two methods. First, there's direct spiritual influence from a master.
Okay, what does that involve?
It's described as leading to immediate practical experiences, almost like a very direct hands-on apprenticeship in the spiritual world.
Like the examples it gives, seeing angels communicating with souls.
Exactly. Very direct experiential learning.
Sounds quite intense, but the text points out a potential problem with just doing it that way.
It does. It flags the risk. What if those experiences are confusing or overwhelming?
Without any theory to make sense of them.
Right. You could feel lost, maybe even vulnerable if something unexpected happens.
Yeah.
You lack the framework to navigate it.
So what's the alternative method?
The alternative is more theory first. Learning the foundational laws, the principles, the formulae that govern the spiritual cosmos.
Understanding the system first.
Yeah. The idea is once you grasp these laws, you can then consciously apply them, interact with that realm in a more informed, controlled way.
And it stresses learning step by step, doesn't it? Like learning the alphabet before writing sentences.
Very much so. Gradual, foundational learning. And it highlights the teacher-disciple dynamic in the practical side.
The mentor guiding the student.
Yes. Through specific practices, recitations, exercises, like targeted spiritual workouts, guided by the teacher, the sheikh.
So it's guided practice.
And then as the disciple progresses, understands more, practices consistently.
Then the sheikh might facilitate those direct experiences.
Exactly. Seeing angels, communicating with souls, maybe experiencing higher states, it becomes a guided, practical application, but built on that theoretical base and regular practice.
It's a combination, really, not just one or the other.
Ideally, yes. Theory informing practice, practice deepening theory.
Okay, that makes sense. Then it shifts focus a bit, talking about the universe itself.
Right, it introduces this idea of an organized and systematical scheme behind everything.
Which leads into discussing administration and divine will.
It does. And it uses a Quranic perspective here to show different ways people might engage with this cosmic order.
Different approaches to ruling the universe.
Yeah, in a sense. One way is self-centered judging things as good or bad, based purely on how they affect us.
Our personal viewpoint.
The other way involves kind of self-negation, trying to understand things through God's law, through destiny.
Seeing a bigger picture beyond personal impact.
Exactly. And this sets up that really powerful story about Moses.
Ah, yes, Moses and the servant of God with the special knowledge.
Insinuated knowledge, Ilm-e-Ladunni. It's presented as a key illustration of a different kind of knowing and acting.
Okay, can you walk us through that story again, the key event?
Sure. So Moses, who already has his divine laws, meets this other servant, and this servant does three things that seem, well, wrong.
Very wrong, from Moses' perspective.
Right. He damages a boat.
Puts a hole in it.
He takes the life of a young boy.
Which seems completely unjust.
And he repairs a falling wall for no payment.
And each time, Moses objects strongly, based on his own laws, right?
Vehemently objects. Because according to his understanding of right and wrong, these actions are harmful or nonsensical.
But the servant has a different explanation.
He does. He explains his actions were commanded by God in accordance with the command of his Lord. He had access to a different layer of understanding.
A divine directive Moses wasn't aware of.
Exactly. Damaging the boat actually saved it from being seized by a king.
Okay.
Taking the boy's life prevented future heartbreak for his righteous parents, who would receive a greater blessing. And repairing the wall protected a hidden treasure for two orphans until they were old enough.
So, actions that looked bad on the surface?
We're actually serving a larger divinely planned purpose. Good outcomes, just not immediately obvious or achieved through conventional means.
And Moses couldn't see that bigger picture at the time.
Correct. It's not about saying Moses was lesser. In fact, Moses sought out this servant to learn.
Right, it's about showing different kinds of knowledge, different ways of operating.
Precisely. It highlights different approaches within this divine order. The servant had administrating knowledge.
As opposed to the doctrines to be preached, given to Moses.
Yes. It suggests that someone whose mind is tuned with the destiny appointed by Allah.
Tuned in, like a radio frequency.
Sort of, yeah. That person can, in that moment, become an agent of that destiny, become the law, in a sense.
And acting on that becomes a duty.
That's how it's presented, a duty to enact that divinely aligned action.